And welcome back to Cigar Time, your friendly neighborhood TV show all about premium cigars.
What is a neighborhood TV show?
I don't know. Well, it's only shown in the
Whatever neighborhood you live
Yeah.
in, you can watch us.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful
guess.
day in the neighborhood.
Us and Mr. Rogers.
He should have lit up a cigar as he was putting on his
Oh, that would've been
sweater
awesome.
and sneakers every day.
Can you imagine today?
People would freak out.
You know, I
Yeah,
was-
but how many people would want to buy the Mr. Rogers cigar?
You know, he was a decorated war veteran.
That's the scuttlebutt.
I thought you were going to say he was a decorator.
No,
that's
you've seen his wardrobe. No.
That's a whole different line of reasoning.
you know, speaking of kids and, well, kids show and then smoking, do you remember in high school? I remember in high school, like, we had a quad area. You could go outside and smoke.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, we had one too.
We had one, too.
I remember.
We didn't have,
I remembered that a couple of weeks ago for some reason. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me.
we didn't have an area. We just had
No, we did-
outside. You just go outside and
So there was
smoke.
a quad area, but the fact that you were allowed to
I know.
was just, to me now, is bizarre.
Yeah.
There was when I was in school, there was an alleyway between the auditorium gym area and the school itself,
Yeah.
and that was called the smoking alley.
Yeah.
There was a landfill near my school where all of the people that like to smoke other things would go,
Yeah.
but that wasn't officially
Now
sanctioned.
that's anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, now that's anywhere.
exactly.
But you can't
Elevators.
smoke a cigar anywhere.
Yeah. I remember seeing teachers bum cigarettes off kids, students.
It's just
Yeah.
mind-boggling. And getting away from cigars. I heard there was a time where a secretary could sit on your lap.
That was an official policy of some sort.
Wasn't that a Mad Men? I never watched Mad Men, but I assume that was in it.
Probably.
That was my life before I got into the cigar industry.
That's how they took dictation.
I was 25.
Oh, Lord.
I'm sorry, 22 years old. I actually had my own secretary. Like, this is bizarre.
How old was she?
Older than him.
35, 40.
Did she fetch you coffee? Well, you don't drink coffee, so.
No, I'm not the kind of. Yes, I do.
Do you?
Yeah, no, I couldn't even ask her to. I had a tough time even asking
Ask
her to
her-
do memos and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I just like to do stuff on my own.
Yeah.
But it was
I
bizarre.
used to love having ideas, just figuratively speaking. I'd toss them over my shoulder, and the secretary would pick it up and run.
Okay.
You get used to that, and then you can't do anything anymore.
Speaking of that, so when did the term secretary become a bad word? You can't use that word. You're not supposed to
It
use
At
that
the
used
word.
same
to
time
be
as
in-
stewardess.
In administration of government and businesses, secretary used to be a high position.
Yeah. Yeah, the
Then
Secretary
it-
of State.
Secretary of Interior,
Yeah.
Secretary of Defense.
Secretary of Tobacco.
So,
Yeah,
but
she-
Maddox.
why all of a sudden is it Gary Maddox? Why is it a bad term? I mean, you do the same thing. I mean, you get coffee for the guy, you
It's
take
administration.
I
dictation.
guess for the
Yes.
same reason, if you call somebody she and she doesn't identify like that, all hell breaks loose.
It's just stupid. Morons, absolute morons.
That's on the top of the list of things that you're not supposed to mention in a job interview.
What?
Anything about pronouns.
Yeah. Yeah, we said you were
As
talking
the
about that the other
interviewer?
day.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm sorry?
As the interviewer?
No, as the
or-
interviewee. If you go into an interview and say my pronouns are, or I want my pronouns whatever to be whatever they are,
You're not getting. the
you're not
job.
getting the job.
Well, what if it's somebody that's 25 interviewing you?
Doesn't matter.
Sure it does.
If there's somebody who's 25 interviewing you for a job, you don't want the job anyway.
Exactly. So, all right.
I'm not waiting anymore.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry.
Today we are smoking the Espinosa Murcielago. Although Espinosa doesn't make the cigar.
Well, he blended it.
He blended it. That is correct.
So he says.
It's an interest. It's a. On paper, it's a very standard,
Mine's on-
or not standard, but
Mine's on paper.
a fairly typical blend. It's a Mexican San Andres Maduro wrapper.
I love San Andreas wrappers.
if you can find the San Andreas wrapper, you should smoke the hell out of it because it doesn't exist.
Right.
But it all, so on paper, it's just that wrapper
Mine's on
and
paper.
Nicaraguan filler and binder, which sounds like it would taste like 100 other cigars. I guess we'll find out if it does. I mean, I've smoked them before. I don't think it tastes like
We found.
other cigars. But it's also, as a brand and as a blend, it's got an interesting history. Back in the day, like the early 2010s,
Yeah.
Eric Espinosa worked with Andy Ortega. And back then it was not called Espinosa, it was EO, or Espinosa and Ortega. And they created this cigar, they blended it, and they gave it to my father, Don Pepin, to produce.
Right.
Around 2015, Eric Espinosa bought out Eddie Ortega, at least from this brand, and they reblended it, trying to exactly duplicate what my father had done, but they were doing it at the A.J. Fernandez factory. But one of the senior blenders at A.J., who used to be at my father when they created the original version of the Murcielago, helped reverse engineer it, and they actually, at least according to them, made it even better.
I think because we did have this cigar when it first came out, when it was Ortega and Espinosa. It didn't sell very well at all. They have reblended it, and it is much, much better. And it's selling much better.
It's selling much better.
Yes.
By the way, Murcielago is Spanish for bat. And that might explain why there's a huge
There's a
bat
huge bat on it.
on the band.
Yes.
No.
And when I smoke this,
Murcielago, man.
when I smoke this cigar, I want to
Murcielago
say,
hombre.
I am Batman.
We're flashing the bat sign. Where is he?
I'm sure Piz will put that on there.
There's a
Okay.
Murcielago car. It's like a
I think it's a Lamborghini.
Yeah. So there's that.
I think it has bat wing doors, as opposed to gull wing doors.
Well,
Does it
they
have-
call them bat wing doors because, you know, but they're actually called gold wing doors.
I know, but given that the car is called a Murcielago.
Actually, no. Don't they have the doors that come up this way?
Like a Lamborghini.
Lamborghini.
Yeah.
Use them for that.
The one I have doesn't do that.
No.
The one you have.
Well, that's
there's
because
up
it's a
on
match.
blocks.
It's a matchbox. It doesn't even. The doors don't even open.
That's because you
They
have
should
a,
call it the Batmobile.
that's because you have a Kia.
What an idea!
Huh? No, I don't.
I don't know. What you
Hyundai.
have. Hyundai. Same thing.
We
Hyundai.
can't all have Cadillacs.
Stop. Stop.
Just a small group, but we have them.
Yeah, just a couple of us. Half the panel does.
One interesting thing
You have an
about this
SUV?
cigar, to me,
No, I
and
got a regular Cadillac.
I did
car.
some homework on
Sedan.
this.
Paul, we're talking
Typically-
about Cadillacs.
No, I don't want to talk about Cadillacs. Typically, even San Andres Maduros are not black in color unless they are treated in some way. A lot of people have asked Eric Espinosa and the people at the factory that work on the cigar whether that's done on this at all. And they flat out say, no, that is the color of the wrapper.
It doesn't taste like it's treated.
No, and it doesn't smell like it's treated. And
Right.
usually the treated ones,
Why would they think this was treated?
it's very dark, even for a Maduro. And usually Maduros that are that dark are treated with something.
The Ashton Age Maduro is darker than this.
That's true.
And I can't swear what's done to that tobacco or not, although I don't think that's treated.
I don't think so either.
that's just, they select for really dark and then ferment it even darker.
A little hole there.
Let me see that. You can tell at the burn
Asshole.
at the burn point. You can tell that when they're treated also.
Yeah, I was just going to say that typically when they're treated, since there's some amount of petroleum or Vaseline in whatever
Right.
treatments they use, what you get right at the burn line is a wet spot,
Right.
where the oil is liquefying before it burns up. And you don't see that on this cigar
No,
at all.
not at all.
I
And
wonder if you can hear it sizzle. Seriously. The cigar that's treated, not this one.
sometimes, if it's really treated a lot, you might hear that.
It's probably, I'm guessing it sounds like,
The only time I
Rice
hear a
Krispies.
cigar sizzle is when I'm doing steaks on the grill.
Exactly.
And then it's not the
Or eating
cigar
Rice
that's
Krispies.
sizzling.
Huh?
or eating Rice Krispies.
No, that's not crackle pop.
Yes.
That's not sizzle. It's a different sound altogether.
Tomato.
If your cereal is sizzling, you've got a different problem altogether.
I hope the camera's picking that up.
Who,
What, the
Cujo?
barking dog?
Cujo?
It's funny how everybody goes silent when a dog barks, and they just listen to the dog bark for a
Yeah.
second. Like he's going to say something.
Awesome if it just busted through the door.
Yeah,
Glass
Cujo,
flying.
the killer attack mutt.
All right, let's get our first impressions. Moose?
I'm enjoying this. This is tasty. It's not as strong as I thought it was going to be.
No, it's not a strong cigar at all.
It's like
I
a
don't think.
medium, solid medium-bodied cigar.
Okay.
Burning very nicely. It's got
Yeah.
a nice ash on it. It's holding it up together.
Paul?
This thing puts out some serious smoke.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Wow.
And right off the bat, the flavor is mild pepper, but mild. And I'm getting cream right away, which works for me just fine.
Okay.
If it didn't do anything else, I'd be happy. But I know it's going to do other things.
Yeah. Scott?
Like cartwheels.
No.
I'm getting the cream. I get a little bit of sweetness and also some citrus. Or some
Well,
tangy
so-
going on.
Yeah.
How about you, Rob?
I'm not getting the citrus. I am definitely getting the sweetness that you're talking the sweetness that you're talking about, and the cream. It's coating the entire palate. I think it's really delicious, and definitely, yeah, like I already said, the sweetness and a little bit of pepper, not a lot.
I mean, I'm not getting any pepper at all. And yeah, this is like a medium, maybe.
Yeah, a mild medium, definitely. Yeah, so we're probably on the strength scale just a 2, not a
Yeah.
not a 2.5, just a 2. So.
Yeah, it's not strong.
No.
At least not yet.
It looks like it would be. Most people think because it's a Maduro wrapper and it's dark, that it's going to be a strong,
has a bat.
strong cigar, and it has a bat on it.
I
It's going to be strong, but it's definitely
also
not.
think
Could've sucked the
the
taste buds
original
right out of your
blend
mouth.
was much more
Yes.
strong in your face,
Yeah.
kind of, and that might be why it didn't sell as well.
Could be.
It wasn't
Could
the
be.
right time for that cigar,
Yeah,
Did
but
they
it's
also have
the right time for
601?
this cigar.
at the time, yeah.
Because
I think so.
Yeah, that was EO.
it's a
also.
shame that's a cigar we'll never bring back, but we had it and it was before its time also. Now 601 does well.
I smoked a few recently that are very tasty. Rocky used to sell that.
Yeah.
Which one was it?
The 601.
Espinosa has I like some of the stuff that he has under his name. Just the Espinosa, like the La Crema.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
Yeah, fantastic cigar.
very, very good.
We had those in our packs.
And the Laranjas.
The Laranja's a really
Both
good
the,
cigar
the
too.
Reserve and the Oscuro are both great.
I like the orange label.
That's the Reserva.
It's very
Yeah, I
tasty
think the other
cigar.
one has a San Andreas wrapper.
St. Andrews.
That's what I said.
Yeah. Two different things, but that's all right.
No.
No, it's not all right,
Rob,
but they are different.
don't worry about it. It's his fault.
I know. So why do we have boxes on the table?
Oh,
Today.
you're going to bring that up? I was going to bring that up. but
Okay.
Okay. Why do we have boxes on it? Well, you know, there are a lot of different kinds of cigar boxes, and they actually have an interesting history.
Okay.
The very first company to put cigars in a box was actually H. Upman. And it was because of the reason that he got in the cigar business in the first place that he needed boxes. Herman Upman, that was his name, or Upman, you like to say.
Well, that's how you say his name.
Well, that's how you say it. That's not how I say it.
But it's pronounced Doopman.
I know.
Like San Andreas isn't pronounced San Andreas.
Well, it's also not spelled that
It's
way.
not spelled that way.
Well, Oopman's not spelled Oopman either. Otherwise, it would be O-O-P-M-A.
Okay. Thank you for that lesson in German. Anyway, he was a banker in Germany, and he had investments all over Latin America, including a cigar factory that couldn't pay their payments on the loan, so he took over the factory. So he sort of accidentally got in the cigar business, and then he had this great idea that he would put all of the cigars in big chests with his bank logo on it, and he shipped them back to Germany to distribute to clients and potential clients as a way to promote his bank. So that was the first cigar box, and they were big. They were they were like this in size.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't say that on it.
No, I didn't think so.
They didn't say that on it. They had the original bank logo on it.
Oh, where did
So
those
that was what the first boxes were. But cigars in boxes did not catch on after that for a few decades, actually.
Okay, before you go on, how were they? What were they in? Were they just loose? Or just
No, they were in bundles, like tercio type bundles. You know,
Okay,
the palm leaf type bundles inside the chest.
Okay,
It wasn't a humidor box or anything like
Right.
that because they didn't know about that back then.
back then, yeah.
But for years after that, even here in the United States, cigars were either loose or were wrapped in a ribbon like a bundle.
Okay. Like we used to do.
Until 1865.
Okay.
And a very important thing happened in 1865. The United States was beginning the Civil War.
Actually, it ended in '65.
The United States had to pay for
Right.
being in the Civil War.
Okay.
And they instituted the first big cigar tax specifically to help pay for the Civil War. One of the things Abe Lincoln did that maybe wasn't so great, instituting the first cigar-specific tax. Anyway, as a result of that tax and the laws that reinforced that tax, they had to start packaging cigars in a way that would hold a tax stamp. Because part of the deal was the government would produce these tax stamps and the manufacturers had to pay, and then they'd have the stamp. So they had to be in a box, and the box had to be big enough for the stamps that the government produced. So they made it law that cigars had to come in a box, and the box had to hold either 25, 50, or 100 cigars. And the 100 was actually to accommodate Upman, because he was the only one shipping cigars in big boxes of 100. So that's where cigar boxes have their origin, basically in response to Lincoln's cigar tax.
Okay.
In the years since then, cigar boxes have gone through a whole lot of changes. And for most of cigar box history, most of it, this would have been the standard type. In fact, what these are called is a Cuban dress box. They're typically made out of some combination of cardboard and plywood.
My dresses would never fit in that.
No.
Well, I wouldn't want to see you in a dress anyway. It's a picture I
God, I
don't
think I'm
need
gonna
in
be
my
ill.
head.
Although you could get a Bud Light endorsement.
You might even get your own can that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
So to speak.
So to speak. So this kind of box has a few distinctive features. Obviously, opportunity for a lot of dramatic graphics, and that, in fact, was very typical throughout the late 1800s and ever since. Really elaborate artwork on the box, multiple colors, metallic foil printing. Most of this stuff came out of Germany back then, the printing. That level of printing was, yes. And in fact, originally they were done by a method called stone lithography, where they would actually take a stone, and for each color of the printing, they would carve out the design on the stone and use it to print. They
Like a
didn't do it
stamp.
on a printing press, they used
Like a
stones.
stamp. Yeah.
And then you do the next color and the next color and so on. Some other features about this kind of box that are interesting, because of the fact that it's made out of separate pieces of plywood, they needed to hold it together, and they typically did it without nails. They typically did it with these strips of paper that would go around the edges and around the seams and get glued down. That paper is actually called fileta, like fillet, because it's cut strips.
Right.
And very early on, they figured out that printing on the fileta was a good way to promote your name. So you'll see on pretty much all Cuban-style dress boxes a lot of printing around the edges that is just a logo or a name or a simple design. Usually this kind of box also comes with a sheet of paper that lays on top of the cigars, and that's printed with more design and logo and all of that.
History of the company, stuff like that.
Some background information, the story of the blend, whatever it happens to be.
Yeah.
So that's a Cuban dress box.
And they've been doing that since.
Basically since
And they still do
since
it,
1865,
obviously.
and they still sell a lot of cigars in this type of box.
And that's the cheaper.
It is cheaper because it's not solid wood. It's
Okay.
either plywood or a mix of plywood and cardboard.
Okay.
Stupid box. Yeah,
It's a terrible way to display
for
it.
us as retailers,
it's horrible.
this is a stupid kind of box for one simple reason.
Because you can't open
To
it.
open it and put it on the shelf, you have to break the seam along the back, and then it looks like a broken box.
Right, exactly.
Seems like somebody with a little bit of design sense could figure a way around that.
You would think.
Because as you've probably seen, when they put hinges on boxes, they do all kinds of strange things to make the hinges work. Sometimes they offset some of the wood on the back of the box so that it can open all the way and not bump into itself.
Right.
So you would think they could come up with something
You would think.
to deal with that. The next kind of box that came along also fundamentally came out of Cuba. And the idea was you would sell 25 cigars in a box like that. If you wanted cigars for storage, these weren't really designed to age cigars or store cigars. It was just a way to package them and sell them.
Dress it up.
That's why they called it a dress box.
Dropping some knowledge.
However,
Think
if
I'm
you
out.
wanted to age your cigars, what you would do is keep them in a solid cedar cabinet. You wanted it to be solid cedar because that's better for the cigars.
Wood from Spain.
It's actually not. It's from most of
Did you
the
listen to the beginning of the show?
Wasn't
No,
on the
that
show.
was before we started shooting. That whole
was.
discussion
Was it really?
before
Yeah,
we
it was
got
right
Wow.
before we started
We talk
shooting,
about
yeah.
a lot of stuff.
So we can talk about
My
that
way of
now.
introducing that because it
Okay.
was wasted
Okay.
in pre-gaming.
Spanish cedar is good for cigars because it's not aromatic like the cedar that you would put in a cedar closet,
It's the
which would
perfect
really
aromatic.
ruin the cigar.
No, that's bad aromatic. This is Spanish
Good
cedar's
aromatic.
good aromatic.
It interacts with the tobacco. It allows moisture to move back and forth without allowing it to just escape. It also inhibits insects. Bugs don't like cedar.
Okay.
So they'll just eat your cigars. They won't
Right,
eat the box.
exactly.
So these originally, when they first came out of Cuba, they started calling them cabinet boxes. And so traditionally, these were the two styles, a dress box or a cabinet box. Over time, the way they did the cabinet boxes started to change. Some of them were hinged, some of them weren't, some of them are dovetailed in their construction, pretty elaborate. These days, if you go into a box factory, this type of box is no longer called a cabinet box. It's called a domino box. And they call it that because if you buy a set of dominoes, they come in a box that's made just like this.
Well,
So
they call a domino box a cigar box.
I don't know. Maybe dominoes can't be older than cigars, but they might be older than cigar boxes. I'm not
Still.
positive one way or the
Still.
other.
It's wrong.
So these boxes typically are less elaborate in printing, although they'll have lots of burned in imprints on them. All of these are typically done as burn-ins, as opposed to just printing or decals or anything like that. These are also the best kind of boxes for keeping stuff
Yeah.
after you're done with your cigars.
So that's the cabinet box.
Or domino box.
Domino box.
Plenty of
Domino cabinet.
elaborately designed but straightforward just boxes, lots of them. And people do all kinds of stuff like carving into the wood or curving the edges. But this is
the front.
Yeah.
this is a fairly typical. It's better looking than some, but it's fairly typical.
Do they all
And
come
they'll
with
be
that paper on the
hinged.
inside?
Sometimes the hinge. What?
They all come with that same
These-
paper on the inside?
Just tell
They usually come with some kind of paper on the inside. And the hinges are sometimes exposed, they're sometimes hidden. That's basically just an aesthetic judgment. This kind of box, which in the 90s became very popular, I'm not going to open this one because it's all sealed up and it's an inexpensive box of cigars. But a few things about this type of box. You can see that it's rounded on the sides and it's deeper than a standard box. This is, some people call this an 898 box
That's what I call it.
because
Yeah, me too.
it's got a layer of 8 on the bottom, and because of the curvature, it has room for 9 in the row in the middle and then 8 again on the top.
Right.
It takes up less space than a wider box that only has 2 layers or a taller box that has many layers. Some people call these a 5/4 box. That means it's got 4 layers of 5 in it.
Right.
This box actually has a name, and I don't know whether that name is for the guy who first designed it or why they call it this. This is a mystery to me, but it's called a Boit box, B-O-I-T.
Okay.
I don't know why,
I've never heard that, actually.
but the rounded, what you would call an 898 box.
Right.
But not if it's squared off with an insert to make it 898, only if it's rounded.
Perdomo has that. It's squared off. That has the, I hate that. That has the bump out inside.
The notches
The
that
notch
you can't get the cigar out.
cigars
Yeah.
out of.
Yeah, that's a pain.
It is.
And this avoids that problem because
Right.
it's rounded, it's easy to get it
Right.
and get it out. Again, I don't know why they call it a Boit box.
I'm checking to see if we have any.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do. An open Boit box?
No. Okay, well, yeah. But we're talking about the Perdomo box that has
Oh, yeah.
the
There's
bump
a
out.
Perdomo box
All
back here,
right.
but
Yeah.
it's-
Oh,
No, it
this,
is.
wait,
Yeah, this
one
is it.
right over your head, Scott.
No, I like this one better.
Okay.
Excuse me. Pardon me.
Got more dust on it.
Excuse me. Pardon me.
What?
We're getting beat up by the chair here.
Yeah, I don't like that suddenly.
So on the inside,
Here, Rob.
as you
show
can
everybody.
maybe see, the box is curved on the inside the same way that it's curved on the outside. And that allows you to put the 9th cigar in the row and still be able to get it out. On the other hand, if they square it off and just cut a notch in the side, it's really hard
It's
to
hard
get
to get
in
the
there
ci- yeah.
and get the cigar out.
It is. Because it's fitted.
It's a tight fit.
Once,
a very
once in a
tight
while, you get a box like that, and somebody can't get that cigar out, so they go and pull the other cigar underneath it out, and that one cigar just
It just
hangs
hangs there. Yeah.
And you might not even see it there.
Yeah.
And you think you have an empty
Or
box.
when you go to count the inventory, you're counting the one underneath it, it's not there.
Yeah.
Now, this allows us to illustrate another thing. This is probably the most standard approach to hinging the boxes. It's basically just a hinge with 4 teeth on it, and they hammer the teeth into the box, and that's it. Done.
It's actually
It
a
will-
big machine that does that.
It will not allow
The
you
hinges
to
come in
open
a
the
long
box
strip.
all the way, and there are some box designs where the hinges, where the wood around the hinges bored out a little bit so that the box will open wider. Or you have this approach. This is a very different approach. There's no hinge here, actually. What they did is they cut the bottom of the box short here and up here, which allows the box to open wider and sit on itself. And you see there's this fairly elaborate construction in here that slips behind the seam. And they just pin it with one little nail, or a brad, you'd call it. They just hit that with a brad, they hit that with a brad, and that's all the hinging
I
there
like
is.
that, as opposed to the hinge. But I don't like the
Hinge looks-
I don't like the insert inside to.
To make it an
But you do get
898.
some
make it an
boxes like
898.
this
That break.
that when you pull it up, that brad nail's not quite centered,
Yeah.
and it snaps because the other one is centered.
And
It throws-
that'll
throws it
break
off.
the wood on either
And
side.
then the lid just falls off.
Okay.
If we had all day, I would show you any number of odd boxes, but they're really not about the structure of the box. They're about the design or the logo, or things like this.
Yeah.
Where they just do decorative stuff.
There's some, like you're saying, some companies like Gurkha, when they first came out with cigars, they had very elaborate boxes, and they made them out of everything. Some of them were all solid lead, some were pewter, some were, and it just added to the expense of the cigars.
That was a cigar we did not bring in because of the shipping, because it was like a
Yes.
marble, the
Yeah,
hammer and sickle.
the hammer and sickle. Yeah, it would
it was like a
cost
stone box.
the cost in shipping would be astronomical, because you buy 10 boxes and it just weighed so much money. It would cost a fortune to bring in, and it adds the expense to the cigar, and it's just not worth it. So, how much? These two boxes, I guess, would be around the same price to make, or
This one costs a little bit more because the wood is significantly thicker.
Yeah.
If you look at the
Perdomo
this-
makes beautiful boxes. I just
do.
don't like that bump out.
No, and I think some of their newer stuff, they don't do it anymore.
Good.
They're still doing it on this line.
Right.
All the
Oh, yeah,
all
the champagne and
the other 10th anniversary stuff.
right.
But their other stuff isn't.
It adds to the cost of the cigars. I mean, what's
Well,
a
here's
typical box cost?
Here's a real world thing. A typical box like either of these would probably cost about $5 to make.
Okay.
A box like this maybe $3.50.
Right.
A box like that maybe $2.
Okay.
Because really all the money is in the printing and the setup of the printing. The rest
Right.
of it is really simple. It's glue and stick it and forget about it.
Right. And that's why some of those cigars cost more than they should, because of the boxes that they put them in.
Well, as an example, you mentioned Gurkha. It's important to know that as a company, Gurkha was in the jewelry box business before they were in the cigar box business. And an early corporate decision at Gurkha was, let's spend big money and a long time making truly elaborate bands and truly exotic boxes, and we'll figure out what to put in them later. And that was the birth of Gurkha as a cigar company.
Kaizen had some strange ideas.
Worked for a while though.
It did work for a while. It absolutely did. Until people found out the cigars weren't as good. But now, I mean, it's changed now. Now they put their
Now
efforts
they
in
make
the
a cigar.
cigars. Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
So, in fact, one of their most successful lines, at least in our stores, is the Revenant line.
Right,
And that comes in boxes just like this.
yeah.
Standard Cuban dress box.
So I remember this one guy made this crazy looking box. It looked like a piano. For
You know,
Beethoven.
I should have brought one of those
You should've.
in.
You
Because
should've.
I still have one.
Do you?
We used to have a pile of them here.
Yeah, they were here before, yeah.
I used to make a cigar called Beethoven. And the Beethoven cigar came in a box that was shaped like a grand piano. It had the long, extended top with the curve on it. It had a keyboard, although the keyboard didn't work, you couldn't play it.
That would have been cool.
That was an expensive box to make. That
Yeah.
cost me close to $7 a box. to
Really?
make. And the thing that really killed me is after I stopped making that cigar, I saw empty boxes on eBay for $50 a box,
Wow.
empty. And not because the brand was so famous that people wanted to collect the box, but people just really liked the
The
box.
box, yeah. It was a nice box.
If I could have sold boxes for $50 a piece, I wouldn't have even had to put cigars in them.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Would have been a good business all on its own.
right. That's funny. It's just crazy how people come up with ideas to put their cigars in.
Well, we've seen people do suede boxes.
Yes.
Like the Espada from
Right.
Monte Cristo. We've seen leather boxes or wooden boxes with leather hinges where they just nail the hinge,
Yeah.
you know,
It's
a
a
strip
leather
of
strap,
leather
yeah.
to the outside. I mean, people will do anything to make it interesting.
The
Aventura has the pirate ship box.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's
the
an unusual
the
one.
CAO Criollos that had the drawers.
Yes.
One of those
Remember
boxes.
those? Yeah. With the tissue paper. They were good cigars.
In the vision.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a
the
humidor.
box that lights, the
lights
humidor
up.
box and it lights
it
up.
lights up. Yeah.
Yeah, and I left them on overnight and came in the next day and they were all done. Great. Brilliant. And I think the next version they made, you can plug them in.
I think they
there's a
they have that
USB
now.
now.
There's a USB port on the bottom of the box.
It doesn't work though.
Well,
At
that's a
least
different
not on
story.
mine.
The cigar doesn't work. No, never mind.
Don't want to say that. That's interesting. But it all adds to the cost of the cigars.
It adds to the cost of the cigars, but somebody I know in the cigar business once said, and I thought this was profound, he said, we all shop with our eyes. I think that was
Yeah.
you. And so box design and box labeling has been a big deal for cigar manufacturers because when you walk into a humidor that's got 2,000 or 3,000 different cigars in it, like ours do,
Yeah.
you really need to stand out on the shelf.
But it-
and the box is the only way to do it.
I understand that, but one of the biggest selling cigars we have is this Fugly. And it's just a box. It's very rough.
Well, and that's the mood of the cigar. I mean,
Right.
that fits the whole marketing concept of the
Right.
cigar.
It's
fugly.
brilliant. It's brilliant.
Plus, it's where it's positioned by the POS.
Yeah, it's
and
right
the
next to-
cigar
yeah.
is fugly, and people are like, I gotta have that.
But it's actually a decent cigar.
It's a decent cigar, but
under
it's got
$4.
good shtick, and a box like that sitting at the cash register makes for an impulse purchase all the time.
And it sells like hotcakes. It's crazy. But also, Rocky comes out with those 100 count boxes for the Edge, and it keeps the price down because it's in 100 count boxes.
Because you have less box and more cigar.
Right, exactly. And that's why it's probably the biggest seller Rocky has, the Edge line. You don't think?
Connecticut.
You think?
I don't think Connecticut.
Oh, well, for us, I mean.
I just got one in King of Prussia, one of those 100 count Rockies,
Yeah.
and people just like, oh man, look at that! Look, man, it must. The box is just massive, and they move
Yeah, they do.
just because they gotta have one of these, you know.
And they're good.
It's a good cigar too. Yeah.
The Edition Unica is the best one, though. It's
And
not
that's
the
got
Edge.
a better looking box than the rest of the line.
That's
too.
true.
It's
That's
not
true.
the standard
It's not
chest.
it's not that rough cut. Yeah, they put some money into the box.
And there was some other company that made a cigar in chests of 100, and the cigar was called Over the Edge.
I don't remember that.
Who did that? Was that you?
Yes.
Over the Edge.
I don't remember that.
You don't remember that?
No.
It didn't stay around for very long under that name.
Speaking of Rocky
Sure it
and the
did.
Edge, it's got a 20th anniversary coming out. You see that?
The
Yeah.
20th anniversary Edge.
Yeah.
It's a we have it.
We have it.
It's
Oh,
a
we do?
fantastic
Yeah.
cigar.
Oh, I don't.
I-
didn't know that because I didn't get any.
That must be why we haven't smoked it on the show yet.
Probably.
We
We'll have
should
to
get
get it.
more. It's
Well, yeah.
it is a very good
Yeah,
cigar.
it's been selling, so we're going to put it into more stores. So
Good. So you're gonna get,
we'll get them.
and you should try one today.
What's the name? Remember the Criollo 99 from Tropical?
Mm-hmm.
They came in those 100 count boxes also.
And it was light wood.
It was
like
very,
this.
very. I think it was even thinner than that.
Also wood.
It was. Yeah, it was almost like yeah.
Oh, we used to get the Eduardos in that.
The
stuff,
Eduardos, we were had them in that too.
too.
Yeah.
Maduro, I think it was.
Lagrange's in a big box. And
Which one?
the Lagranja, LaFleur's.
Yeah.
Well, again, it's 100 big cigars.
It's 100. Yeah, it's a big box. It's also very hard to display on the
On the
shelf.
shelf.
It doesn't retail very well.
Unless you use the stupid little door on the
Yeah,
front.
yeah.
I like the. Was one of the Monte Cristos? They had the tray where you pull.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
the,
yeah.
I forget what it was called. You used to sell a crap load of them.
it
Paul.
was the first Grupo de Maestro Monte Cristo, and it was, I forgot what they called it. It wasn't the Artisan series,
We still have some of them, don't we?
like 10.
Didn't have the glass top, had the glass front.
glass front. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Glass front that slided,
And
Oh,
they-
yeah,
those
yeah,
slid
yeah.
out of
those
the top.
Trays are actually what they use in factories.
Yeah.
I don't know if they came from factories, but that's exactly what they used for 20 cigars.
Yeah. That's cool.
And that used to be considered one of the most expensive Monte Cristos at $16.
It's, yeah.
Those days are gone.
Yeah. Scott, do we have any events coming up?
You want to tell us about them?
Well, I think one of the reasons we're smoking the Murcielago is because of the wrapper comes from Mexico, and as everybody knows, this Friday is
Cinco de Mayo.
Cinco de Mayo. Yes, we've got actually 3 stores that are having a Cinco de Mayo event with a taco bar. So
Really?
yeah, it's pretty cool. So Downingtown's is having
Is
an
having.
Yeah,
AJ
having it.
event this Friday from 12 to 4. Colmar and Doylestown are also having the taco bar. They're doing a buy 3 get 1 on a new house cigar called the Mexican Pig.
Good.
I might have to come by Doylestown and check out your house cigars.
When is that? Friday? Tomorrow?
No,
The 5th?
Cinco de Mayo. That would be the 5th.
5th, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Then if I'm allowed to continue.
No, you're not.
Next,
No, definitely not.
Next Thursday, the 11th, from 3 to 7, General Cigar Companies in Fraser. And then Friday, there's an AJ event in Doylestown with food, jazz, poker. Oxford Valley is having a forged event from 3 to 7. And Horsham is having an event with My Father Cigar Company from 3 to 7. And then
Busy weekend.
and it's perfect timing because it's Mother's Day. So don't be sexist. Buy mom cigars.
Yeah.
What
At least
an
take her out for some
interesting idea.
tacos
That's the week before.
on the 5th.
Weekend before.
Well, so what?
No,
So you can
buy
still
mom
take
a
her.
nose plug and buy
Or
yourself
bring
a
her
cigar.
into the store. And
Yeah.
get them have a taco bar. Make your own taco at the bar for tacos.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Any questions?
No,
You sure?
not from you. Is that it?
Yeah.
So, what else is going on?
I don't know.
Anything?
No.
Any legislation? Stuff? No.
Not
Tons of
about
it.
New?
But it's mostly state legislation, not. It's just like one state just officially made the age to purchase tobacco 21. Okay. It's a federal law. But
It's a
I think,
federal law, yeah.
But I think they did that to so there wasn't any
They're
confusion.
they're in line.
Yeah, there's like tax caps and taking off tax caps, and it's. I mean, if you read
chaos.
half wheel, it's all over the
They're
place.
taking the caps. They have their tax, and then they cap it to keep the price down.
Yes, and some are removing.
And
the
removing the
caps.
cap and just raising the prices astronomically. That's just
Yes.
how stupid is that for business?
Yeah, well, there's.
They're
in fairness-
driving people to the internet to buy
I
cigars.
think that a lot of politicians are old enough that they have an old man's attitude. They assume that cigars are for the well-to-do, when we know that a lot of average Joes smoke a lot of
Yeah.
cigars. But they assume it won't matter if the price goes up. They'll either smoke less or they're rich, they don't care.
It's that the idea of people smoking less because of the prices is absolutely
It just
ridiculous.
doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen.
You know, Perdomo told us a story about when he met with then Senator Joe Biden, and he said the guy who was taking him in there warned him. He goes, I forget what he said, but his IQ is not that high. And Nick came out going, no, you were very generous. But basically, I'm trying to remember exactly what Nick told us, but basically Biden's like, come on, anybody can afford a $40 cigar.
Is that what he said?
And this was, I don't know how long ago, 15 years maybe?
Were there
10
any
years?
$40 cigars 15 years ago?
I don't know.
I mean,
Probably.
we have a couple
Gurkha.
now. Yeah, there were
Gurkha,
Gurkhas
yeah.
back then. Yeah. Well, that was part of their mission, was to always have the most expensive cigar in the
Well,
world.
they do. Is it $1 million or I know one is $100,000.
I think there's one that's $300,000 also.
Is there?
I'm gonna make one that's that expensive just to see.
Who would buy it?
Yeah, just make one.
Just one.
Well, you only have to sell one.
You only have to sell one. Considering it'll probably only cost you like $1.50 to make.
Less than that. I'm just taking one off the shelf and calling it something different.
You'd be surprised on how many companies do that.
A retreaded Eduardo.
Or a quorum.
Yeah. That's crazy. But you would be surprised on how many companies take cigars that aren't selling, repackage it, and call it
Give it
something
a
else,
story.
and then raise the price on it,
If
and
I
people
had-
buy
And then
it.
it sells.
If I had
And then it
like,
sells, is
Let's
right.
say I had it for like $500, and I said, "I'll cut you a break. Give it to you for $250."
$250.
Oh wow! In that case,
Yeah. That's crazy. What are you gonna do? Cigar companies do all kinds of crazy nonsense.
When
yeah.
I-
Well, that one cigar was out there was the exact same cigar with two different brands. The exact same cigar. And one was like 15 cents more than the other.
and they were two different companies, but
Well, same company.
making the same cigar.
No.
No,
I know
it's
what
the
he's
same
talking
company.
about. Same company.
Same company was making the cigars and packaging them under two different labels.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
They
one
still do it to
company
this
owned
day.
the other brand, and
No.
you mean we're
company
not
owned.
talking
It's a
about
company-
Ashton and Fuentes?
No.
Oh,
No.
a whole different story.
It's owned by a major
They
company.
took half the scars and put this band on it, and this
On
one got
Monday,
this band.
Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, they would put one band on it, and Thursday, Friday, Saturday, they would put a different band on
Had
it.
to be in Honduras.
Absolutely. That is
That's
exactly
right.
correct.
Generally
And,
speaking, yeah.
and there are
Generally-
people
generally
who
speaking,
swear.
they're
There are
two
people who will
different
swear
cigars.
to this day that they are
They are
different,
two different cigars.
and they are not.
But if you look at them, the sizes are all exactly the same. It's crazy.
They're the same.
It's the exact same
Yeah,
cigar.
only one of them still.
Only one of them are left on our shelves.
Yeah, it's kind of odd.
It is.
They don't sell as much as they used to.
No.
Oh my God, we couldn't keep those around.
I know, used to. There's too many other good cigars, though. That's the thing. People are learning, like, you have AJ now. He's a tremendous blender. Don Pepin's a tremendous blender. They didn't have them. They weren't around back then, though.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's just so many other good cigars out there to smoke. And that's why all these predicated brands that have been around for literally hundreds of years just don't sell as much
Don't
anymore.
sell the way they used to.
There are a lot of good cigars that don't sell, like the Cuesta Rey was a very good cigar. Montesino, both by J.C. Newman, they were huge sellers back in the early,
90s. Well,
not
early, like the boom era.
Yeah, that were tremendous cigars. Now they just don't. They don't
they're
sell
coming out
anymore.
with a new Cuesta Rey.
They are.
It's like but I think it's like a real expensive
Yeah,
cigar.
it is. Yeah, it's. They're trying to. It's just. I don't know.
It's true.
They just gotta. Yeah. They just have to step up their game, repackage it, not
Well, and the-
reblend it, but just rebrand themselves.
The,
Well, they
the
can't do away with the
Cuesta Rey
cigar, it's on top of
Maduro
the
that
building.
we
I know.
that we carry now.
What?
Cuesta Rey Maduro.
No, Unica.
Oh, well, it's the same. cigar.
Right. I mean, they rebranded sort of. They used to be in bundles. Now they're in boxes.
That's actually a good cigar, though.
It is a
The-
good cigar.
The La
It's-
Unica Maduro that we sell.
It is, and that's a
excellent.
mild cigar also.
Creamy.
Very creamy. But it just doesn't sell as well because it's been around forever. It's not boutique-y enough.
And Mr. Cuesta and Mr. Ray are not around to promote
Yes.
it anymore.
Yeah. So,
There was a Mr. Cuesta.
was there?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
But he doesn't have to call me Ray.
They got their start in Ohio.
Questa Ray?
No, J.C. Newman. So,
You read the book, didn't you?
no,
Stanford Newman?
no. Well, I have the book. I didn't read it.
That's actually pretty good.
Is it? That's how you want to die, though. I mean,
Newman, I read
J.C.
your
Newman.
book.
died at his
You're
desk
magnificent.
with cigars in his
With the cigar
pocket.
in his mouth?
His pocket.
Oh,
Yeah,
now I'm going to go away in my sleep.
that's true. Yeah.
I want to doze off smoking a cigar at 1 o'clock in the morning and just not wake up.
Yeah, you burnt to a crisp. That's why you don't wake
I
up.
won't care. If I don't wake up, it won't matter.
That's crazy.
He'll think of one of two things while he's sitting there smoldering. One, I dropped a cigar in my lap and I'm now burning to death.
Yeah.
Or I am really in hell.
Both.
Or both, yeah.
This is a really good cigar.
Thank you.
You had nothing to do with it. It's much better than it was before.
It is much better. It's got an interest. The smoke has an interesting mouthfeel. I know that we tend to think about creamy cigars as being as much mouthfeel as flavor, but this has something else going on in the mouthfeel.
I'm getting two distinct different flavors. I'm still getting a little bit of that pepper everybody talked about, but I'm also getting vanilla, and that's what I'm getting the creaminess from. There's more of a vanilla taste to it now.
Yep, I totally
Is that what you were going to
agree.
say?
Yep.
Really, I don't get any vanilla. If anything, I get a cocoa taste, not chocolate, but cocoa taste.
Well, cocoa, you could make cocoa cream, you know. It's,
Yeah,
creamy's creamy.
right. It's
You know,
creamy,
but I
it's
definitely
cocoa.
have a definite note of vanilla.
Vanilla,
Like
do
dry
ya?
cocoa powder.
Right.
Yeah, I got that too.
Like baking cocoa.
And the retro makes me want to sneeze,
Oh,
but
you
it
know
tastes
what?
good.
I haven't retrohaled this cigar. Almost the whole thing, I didn't retrohale it. Let me try.
Dun, dun,
You're gonna watch
dun.
me retro.
Watch him blow smoke out of his nose.
Blow it out of your ears.
Or
Wow.
yeah, do a
A tia.
Yeah, a tia.
I definitely get a cocoa taste through the
From the
retrohale.
retrohale.
Yeah, big time, big time.
It's like you packed your nose
Yeah,
with
with
cocoa
cocoa
powder.
powder. Exactly. Like you stuck your nose in a Nestle's cocoa.
Doing
chocolate
lines
cocoa.
of cocoa. It's
Yeah.
a whole different thing.
Yeah. It's very
Not
good.
cocoa. Cocoa.
I remember when the Perdomo Noir came out. That was like throwing baking, sorry, yeah, baking chocolate right in your mouth,
Yeah.
like cocoa powder. Not the sweetened like Nestle, but
Doesn't
Right.
taste like that anymore, though.
They don't make it
they don't make it
anymore.
That's why it doesn't taste like that anymore.
Rob was very disappointed in that.
Yeah,
So we
because I
have-
like that cigar. I like cocoa in my cigar. Cacao.
I do too.
I'm getting a bunch of Seco right now. I guess this would be the 2/3 mark. And all of a sudden, my mouth just
Just dried up.
dried right up.
Yeah, come to think of it, my mouth isn't really.
You're not salivating?
I'm not.
over
Yeah, I'm
this
not
shit?
salivating.
And now I don't think mine is either, but I think it's psychosomatic.
Yeah,
as you
now
guys are
you're
saying.
it. Yeah. Yeah, think about it. All right, let's put some numbers on it. Moose.
Hold on, how much does this retail for?
10, a little over $10
In the Toro size.
in the Toro size. Yeah, 10 something. They came out with a TAA cigar, the Murcielago TAA, which is fantastic.
I can't wait for that. to
I
come
can't
in.
wait till it come in, till it comes
I'm
in.
dying to smoke that.
Yeah.
Good for
What'd you say?
Florida.
Shut up. I can't wait till we get it. How's that? Okay. Moose.
I'm going to give it a 9, solid 9.
Okay. Any?
Yeah,
other
the
than-
flavors haven't changed.
Haven't changed for you?
No, what I've already said is what I'm still getting.
Okay. Paul?
I think the strength picked up a little bit. I'd call it a 2.5 now, where it was a 2 before. And it's still a surprise that it's not stronger, but a pleasant surprise. I give it a 9.5. I like it a lot.
Yeah.
I just picked up a weird sensation on the front of my tongue and also a weird flavor. I still have the creaminess. I'm getting a little bit of pepper now. And you guys are right about the smoke production. Like
Yeah.
a lot of smoke. But if you remember last week, I talked about like a like liver kind of flavor.
Yeah.
I'm getting a little bit of that now. Just a hint of it, almost like a charred beef.
Maybe you should go to the doctor. and
Yeah, I was
have a
just
look at
thinking
it.
that. Maybe too much iron.
Maybe you hit a beetle.
Just blew his head up. His head
Oh,
exploded.
tobacco beetle.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. I was like,
Why would I hit Paul McCartney? Why would,
I was thinking
Yeah, he's
Volkswagen.
Yeah, I crashed
Well,
it. I hit a
The
beetle.
Or I had
No,
a
well-
ladybug or.
yeah.
30% of old cigars have a beetle larva in them somewhere. 30%. So chances are, if you hit a beetle, you're going to taste something.
I guess, but
It might be
dead larva.
buried in the flavor of the tobacco, but there's going to be a note that comes off burning up a tobacco beetle that's going to be different than the rest of the cigar. It should come and go really fast. Unless the larva was intact and it explodes, you won't know it any other way than just a momentary strange note in the flavor or a weird smell.
I just got this image of this little mini explosion.
Explosion
inside.
inside. Yeah, yeah.
Well, it's almost like
It
popcorn.
popping
It's
inside.
almost like popcorn.
It's a suicide bomber.
Yeah. I know a guy who was smoking a cigar one time, and he looked down at his cigar, and he saw a beetle crawling out of it because it
Didn't
it
like
was
the
hot.
heat.
It didn't like the.
He was enjoying the smoke, but when it got too hot,
I always remember that. Man, that happened. That was 20-some years ago. Anyway,
You don't want anything crawling out of
Well,
your
your
cigar
cigar,
while
no.
you're smoking it.
No.
For
especially
sure.
spiders.
stop.
Haven't seen that.
All right, Scott. What do you didn't give us your final thoughts?
A bat came out of my cigar.
Yeah.
I did, except for I didn't get a number to it. I
Okay.
gave all the final thoughts.
Okay.
So what's your number?
I give it a 9.
Well, that's high praise for you. Okay.
From him.
From him. Thank you.
That's for you.
As for me, I'm getting a lot more cocoa this far into the cigar. A lot more
The pepper
cocoa.
settled down and
The
the
pepper,
cocoa
yep.
came up.
But it's still very creamy. It's very good. I like the cigar a lot. I like it much better than the original version. Thank God they changed the blend, and now it's selling much better. So I want to give this a. You're going to need this in a second. I want to give this a 9.25. I like this cigar very much. 9.25. So we're all over the board.
Yep. 2 925s and a 9.5.
Yep.
Sounds like 925 net
Yeah.
to me.
Absolutely.
I
Scott,
don't
again,
do-
can you, while
do
we have a
math
minute
as
left, read the,
This Friday in Downingtown, the AJ event with a taco bar. Also Taco Bar in Colmar and Doylestown with a buy 3 get 1 on the new house pig, Mexican pig.
Mexican pig.
I gotta order those.
Cerdo.
Where do you get them from? Okay.
Just like call this guy Jeremy.
Some guy named Jeremy.
CERDO is Spanish for pig.
Serta?
Yeah.
Okay.
Serta
Next
Club.
Thursday, the 11th, is General Cigar and Fraser from 3 to 7. And then on Friday, there's an AJ event in Doylestown. Food, live jazz, poker after the AJ event. Then Oxford Valley, also Friday. There's a Forged event from 3 to 7.
May 12th.
May 12th,
Yes.
next Friday, not this
Yes.
Friday. And then Horsham, there's a My Father event here, 3 to 7.
3 to 7.
And the bonus is if you come to the Horsham event, you get Alan.
Yeah. Okay. Don't forget our sister company, cigarsamplers.com. You can get all kinds of sample packs and everything like that for a very cheap price.
Where the cigars
Are the stars.